like to know a few things about you, about yourself. So, being a student, it all started you being a student. So, how we would like to go back and we would like to, start from the beginning. So, before Bioleather, before the startup journey which you found for
Mhm.
yourself and for Bioleather, who was
Okay.
Pritesh Mistry as a student?
As a student, British Mustard was a backbencher, often flunking on the classes, fundamentally, never going to the college and always tinkering in my home lab.
Okay, okay. So you from being a last bencher, frickling, missing college, not going to college, you developed something, a brilliant idea for the environment, and I'm very much curious how all of these, all the your entrepreneur journey started, and where did you just bought this idea of the starting of something which is very unique and not really, not everybody could think of it,
Mhm.
something very unique. So how all this started? Of course, being a student, you didn't expect anything out of this. Being a student, you as mentioned, rightly mentioned by you, being a last bencher, not going to college, missing college, everything, having all the fun of being in teenage and enjoying the college life, but thinking about something very unique. This is a very serious business. So how this idea struck your mind, and when was the moment when you thought about it?
It started at the third year of my college when we were just going for an industrial visit to Kanpur. And as a part of curriculum, we had to visit a tannery where we saw firsthand how leather was processed. We also, as we entered the tannery, we also saw the first and the smell, which I distinctly remember at that particular time. The smell itself went through the nose and through my head, and I cannot get out of my head for pretty much long days. So that's where the first, I think, so the idea came into the picture that it's a very shitty process of leather manufacturing. And can it be changed? Can it be done something different? And always thinking in the lines of differences. So I always I'm a rebel. So I always rebel a lot of stuff. So I was like, okay, is there a way to fundamentally change how we make leather itself? And that was going on at the back of the mind, while we had also visited some farms again. As a field visit, we had to visit some farms. We visited some farms and asked like, producing a bunch of tomatoes. It was a very farm, so they produced a lot of different vegetables, but at that particular time, tomato was in season. So we had seen it, and that's where we were just having a chat with the farmer, and then the farmer said, "Hey, this are the bunch of what do we say tomatoes which are not sellable." And at that particular time was just straight up eureka. At that particular time, we were like, "Okay, let's make something out of tomato, and let's also, while we are doing it, change how we make leather." So the only reason why we chose, we could have made anything from tomato, right? You could have many things.
Correct, exactly,
But you only,
exactly my point.
yeah, you
My
could make so
next
many
question
things,
was
right?
that only, that why specifically tomatoes? The first thing people would think, out of leather, tomatoes, out of tomatoes you're making leather. So very weird combination. People could never think of it. So yeah, so
Mhm.
why specifically tomatoes? Like any specific reason apart from your visit, what you had in?
On the other hand, as we started going deep while doing the project, we figured out that it's a huge issue. Fundamentally, India is one of the largest producers of tomatoes across Asia.
Correct,
We
yeah.
produce 44 million tons of tomatoes each year.
Correct.
And once we started digging more, we realized that it's a huge issue, which is crop waste. So, and tomato being indigenous to India, it was just like, I think so, the stars aligned fundamentally. And that's
Correct.
where tomato came into the picture. And we were like, "Oh, we are right all along. And let's just focus more on tomatoes and seeing where we can do and what we can do. And getting indigenous and being the largest producer across Asia, we had an advantage that we had so much tomatoes available that we could do this year around, pretty much.
So, so I want to understand how the bioleather, the factory works. Like, what type of tomatoes usually you use? Like I'm sure you're not using any, good quality tomatoes which are good for
Yeah.
the use. Yes, obviously the rotten ones, the spoiled ones, you might be using that. So I want to
Mm.
understand how you are. So of course, for making a leather,
Mhm.
you might be using a lot of tomatoes in a huge quantity, in a
Yes.
huge capacity.
Yes.
So
Yes.
where are you, exporting, importing, or getting all the tomatoes for the, factory?
Mhm. So I'll tell you the whole process from a bird's eye view. The best way is the whole process starts as generally from Andhra Pradesh. Why Andhra Pradesh? The thing is, it's known as the tomato producing belt of India. Andhra Pradesh produces almost 70 to 80% highest tomatoes fundamentally. Okay, about 70 to 80% of tomatoes are produced within the region belt of Andhra Pradesh. Madanpalli being one of the biggest market for tomato. And so we started from there. We use tomatoes which are unsellable. Again, we don't use tomatoes which are rotten or which are just rotten. We rather use tomatoes which are unsellable, which means they are not up to the mark for the market standards to be sold and to be generated revenue from. So we target those sort of tomatoes, and it's always going to be a waste because tomatoes is a natural. At the end of the day, it is grown by nature, so it's always going to have defects. We
Correct.
take those, we as we move into the factory, we process it, we dry it, we get a powder out of it, we mix it with the bio binders. We add a backing fabric on top of it, which is also derived from cotton, and then we texturize it and finalize. And that's how it fundamentally creates.
Okay, okay. So this is something very great, very unique. What Pritesh Mistry out of no, like nobody could ever think that tomatoes. I think being a college student, me myself, when I was in college, I would have never thought, or maybe not even other engineering people or native have never ever thought of this idea of using tomatoes and converting them for leathers. So what makes bioleather? My next question is like that only. Like what makes bioleather different from the traditional leather or other alternatives like PU or maybe PVCs. So what are the other how it makes it different from other alternatives of generating leather or producing leather?
So when talking about differentiating factor with consider with leather, first and foremost, no animal cruelty, no stinky process while producing leather fundamentally, and also no effluent. So when we are compared to leather, we are about 80% less effluent driven fundamentally. So less water usage fundamentally. And when you are comparing with PU and PVC, so our when we started this and we had this vision for it to never use PU PVC into it when we are making tomato leather. So our leathers are PU PVC free and also 100% biodegradable. That's our differentiating factor across all the line.
This is this is again great only. So my next question is, of course, you started at a very young age. So being at a young age, how for creating or to maybe or to start with a small thing also, you need a lot of support, a lot of capacity, a lot of strength for that matter, be it work capacity, workforce, yeah, whatever. So what is your capacity of bioleather? Like how come you curated everything to fall under one bucket and you started something massive? Like starting with a factory itself, word factory itself means a lot of manufacturing, production house, gig. There are a lot of stages of work to be done in aspect of factory. So how you managed it and how you managed it at a very young age, of course, without any experience, or you had any experience and you would like to share it with us as well.
I didn't have any experience. The only thing that way I had is sheer will and the ability to fail on a daily basis. So all that I did was fail like there was no tomorrow. Every day wake up, there is some issue going on. Every day there is there. The only thing kept me going is just to have the share will. I'll also advise to all your listeners or your viewers is to always have just a will fundamentally. The thing is, failure, people look at failures in a negative fashion. So, how I was raised is in the man that we consider failures as a stepping stone. If you are not failing on a daily basis, you are not progressing. That's our uh, psychology fundamentally. That's how we have come up with.
Correct.
That's how I've brought it up. So that has created a huge impact on me to start up this stuff, to put it into this position, and even more further. Right now, we are planning to go more further. The only thing is, you have to fail on a daily basis.
Yes, definitely. So, as mentioned by you, so you guys are planning to for something big. So, what else? What else Bioleather is planning to, for the future, or what future projects you all are heading towards?
So Bioleather right now is diversifying its catalog into other plants and food waste segments. So we have just launched mango leather right now. We are also launching with apple leather, and we are also planning to launch something with cactus as well. Why we are doing that, we are also actively moving in the direction of products. So we want to have a vertically integrated bioleather. So where we are also developing products for brands, a one-stop shop if you are a B2B customer, one-stop shop for production of bags, shoes, wallets, accessories, whatever you could produce from it. And also, we are starting our own independent brand apart from Bioletter for products specifically.
Okay, okay. So you are so Bioleather is not restricting itself to tomatoes. Now it's going to be cactus, mangoes, as
Yeah.
mentioned by you, and many more. And then you are going to make different products out of it.
Yes.
Okay, very, very great and a very good thought, Pritesh. Nobody could ever think that, somebody who is a backbencher, never goes to college and will be doing something very unique and will be protecting the environment in a unique way of its own. And talking about environment, my, next question will be related
Mm.
to environment since even Richa cares, RCF, we believe in protecting the environment and we work in the sustainability of the environment and we have our own initiatives aligned with it, which is, Hope Leher,
Mhm.
which falls under environment. So my next question is, what is the biggest environmental challenge which, according to you, which India is facing currently? And how would you like to put it, or to you want to address it altogether, and how we should go ahead, addressing these challenges and how people should be more vocal about, towards walking towards sustainable environment and how we can, what will be the challenge and how we can go together addressing this issue.
I think so. Right now, India has a very big challenge in terms of complete dependencies on plastics. So people still are, I think so, at this age, people are still very much dependent upon the plastics and the cheap plastics. I would not even consider plastics which are of good quality. I'm talking about cheap disposable plastics, which creates a lot of mess around the town. So the thing is, we are in a position and we are in the phase of technological change where there are polymers and different binders available which are more than enough to replace single use plastics and also fundamentally cheap plastics altogether. And we as a society in India are still not accepting those sort of a plastics or those sort of biodegradable or bio-based plastics for our use case, which in turn is creating harm to the environment as well as creating lot of waste. And I think so people should be quite aware about what they are buying. I would rather not use a waste single use plastic or a cheap quality plastic, rather move on to higher grade plastics which are very much good recyclable, or demand biodegradable plastics which are already there in the market. You could just go and buy it. People just are not aware about it.
Very true, very true. People, so according to you, there's a lack of awareness. People need to
Exactly.
educate themselves, not educate, but yeah, educate themselves on aspect of environment and what they're buying. mindful buying and mindful selling should be done across India. Definitely, definitely. Well, very well said, Pritesh. And I think India should get motivated from the youngsters like you, and of course the students across India. So, talking about students, I'm sure, there will be a lot of friends and, students or maybe family who try to, pull you down, and with the, with the idea only, like, first question people, what strikes mind when they heard about, tomatoes equals to leather. So first question always strikes is कि कोई बंदा कैसे, this is a very, तुम tomatoes को convert करे हो leather में, you don't have anything else to do in your life. People start questioning your innovations, people start questioning your uniqueness. So I am sure the society might have challenged your uniqueness and your thought as well. So, what was the very pressing or very striking thought that always hammered your mind, or maybe you that you take it you that you took it in a negative or maybe in a positive side, and what was that thought or maybe a question that people or the society made it to you while you were in this journey of building something very big?
It, it was a very easy thing. It's more about the mindset. When you are starting out in terms of entrepreneurship or even doing any sort of an innovation, you have to have a resilient mindset and a thick skin fundamentally. Because you are not only fighting the market, people usually consider entrepreneurship as just fighting the market and pushing through it. But what you are fighting, more importantly, are the negative of other people around you. So you always have to have a very thick skin and a resilient mindset fundamentally. And I just don't take the negative comments. I just move further with whatever I'm thinking, basically. And that's not the way to go ahead fundamentally.
Definitely, yes, yes. Very well said. Of course, if you to get a success, if you want to get successful, it's very make sure कि कुछ तो लोग कहेंगे, लोगों का काम है कहना, and you have to ignore that
Right. You just
completely.
gotta ignore it. Exactly.
Very well said, very well said. So, being an engineering student, what is the one memory that strikes you that, of course, not going to college will definitely one of those memories. Of being a backbencher will be the core memory, but what will be the other memories? I'm sure engineering is something which is a very, vast program, and you get lots of hands-on experience through it. So what will be your core striking memory of engineering journey, Pritesh, being an engineering student, wherein you got a thought of this massive idea and uniqueness, and wherein you want to share it with the youngsters of the society?
I would say explore as much as you can. So, in my engineering time, I was the person sitting in the back bench, but I always used to get good marks. So, I don't know, man, about that. And I enjoyed like there was no tomorrow. So, it was the best time fundamentally. Going out, exploring different things. The time when you are in the college, it is the time that you explore your horizons, sees what is possible for you, see what you are good at. Engineering, it's fine. Matlab, you are doing engineering. I was also doing engineering. I was good at it. But it does not limit you to what you have taken. You should always explore other variations, whatever things. You should always explore. You never know what clicks, what doesn't.
Correct. Absolutely. Very true. Very well said. I'm sure all the engineering students sitting across will be listening to this, and definitely they'll get inspired by the work you're doing, and it's absolutely stunning. So, Pritesh, as we know, so being, running a foundation like this, like at RCF, as I mentioned earlier, that we are into, saving the environment, and we conduct various beach drives and
Okay.
beach cleaning drives. And when I personally go, and we collect a lot of dirt, a lot of dirt, a lot of dirt, types of plastic, you tell me, which are never degradable, they are not biodegradable at all. We get cigarette butts, which are at minimum. Like we get a lot of them across the sea, across the seashore only, and which makes the marine life so bad. The quality of marine life is decreasing day by day. even the environment is, we can see a lot of changes. And because of the environment, there are a lot of hormonal imbalance in humans also, especially when we talk about, highlighting issues of females and, of course, men's. There are a lot of things related to health as well going on due to, this non-biodegradable products people are using nowadays. And also, of course, so what is your take towards, this non-biodegradable product, or maybe, the plastics which people use? Of course, you mentioned earlier that we have to be, think twice or think wiser when you're buying a product. You should be aware of what you're buying. But apart from this, what message, or what exactly, any strategy, or maybe, something that people should keep in their mind? Because being someone who is contributing towards the environment at a very good scale, at a large scale like you, so what is the one thing or best advice you could give to the society for, preserving the environment and working more towards a better sustainability?
I think so. The best advice was reduce, recycle, and reuse. That's the best fundamental advice that we could go ahead with it. Always carry a water bottle, never buy single use water bottles. You could always do that. That is very efficient. You always have water spouts available throughout the city. You could always fill it up. When also taking, avoid plastic containers fundamentally for your takeout. You could always ask the vendor, or you could always request your restaurant to be using paper-based takeouts which are already in the market. Yeah, so there are so many ways you could just do it, and always reduce, recycle, see what's up. If it's not necessary, don't buy it. Simply.
Correct. Very true. Very true. So, moving ahead, Pritesh, I would like to know about, again, Bioleather. So, coming back to Bioleather, how stressy, or how, you know the whole process is like. I would like to know it from you, and who will be the better person to know the whole process, like how the tomatoes are converted into leather. I want to know the whole process, so that the country knows about what you are doing, and, about Bioleather. So how the I know there might be stages, like, the stage where you are doing the tomatoes or what. So I want to know the whole process, how you, convert the tomatoes into leather, and how leather are made out of it.
So, as I was saying, I had mentioned it in the previous chapter as well. Previously, I had mentioned that I'll give you a bird's eye view of how we make it. It's simple as it goes. We take the tomatoes, we take the unsold tomatoes from the farmers, providing them with a income source for them. That's when the process starts. The tomatoes are then sun dried and pulverized to get a powder form out of it. Those tomato powder is then mixed with bio binders, bio fillers, and added on top of a cotton fabric, fundamentally coated on top of a cotton backing fabric. And then you finish it off by putting a finishing layer on top of it and texturizing it to the desired texture. That's how the bird's eye view of the process actually happens.
Okay, okay. So you said that you mentioned about farmers and their, income, source of income. So does Bioleather is providing a source of income to farmers? And if yes, then which areas, from where you all source tomatoes from, and who are these farmers, from where they are coming from? Of course, not the names, but the areas.
So, as I told you, we buy everything from Andhra Pradesh. So,
Okay.
Madanpalli is one of the biggest market from tomatoes. We buy some from them. So, always in terms of markets, so there are APMC markets in their local areas. Fundamentally, in Andhra Pradesh, I'm talking about. So, we have relationships with this markets fundamentally, and usually in markets itself, we are able to find discarded tomatoes from the farmers. Usually, the price may crash sometimes of the tomatoes. You might have heard so many news. news outlets spreading that tomato price crashed to like maybe 50 paisas or kg or something like that, or 1 rupee, 2 rupee, which is hard for farmers. And that's where we come into the picture, and that's where we start buying from the farmers at a reasonably good rate when the market price crashes. And that's how we give them additional source of income for them.
Okay. So everything is like you source it from Andhra Pradesh and the local areas. Very
Yeah.
nice. Okay. Okay. So moving ahead, Pritesh, my next question will be so as even if you are aware, you will be aware of it. But what I am aware of is that leather is not something very much, of a usable material for sustainable material for that matter. I
Mm.
understand you're making leather out of tomatoes, which is a biodegradable material, but at the same time it is at the final product is leather at the end. So how come, like we come to know, get to know a lot of disadvantages and harms about leather material. So how come the leather which you are producing and the other leather which is available in the market? Because I'm sure there might be other leathers, because there are a lot of you know organizations who are producing leathers. They're not using meat,
Mm.
because of a lot of awareness, and it is banned in India, of course, because you cannot
Mm.
use meat or an animal skin for that matter for producing leather. So of course they might be using some other alternative for producing leather, just like you are using. But do you think that leather is very much useful for our body and for the environment?
Real leather, the term itself, just make sure that it has been made from animal skin and it is still made in India. If you believe it or not, and there are hundreds of different types of leather that has been already been manufactured in India. Some of the leathers are quite horrific. I would say there's also baby sheep skin leather, which is crazy. Then there's which is crazy, right? Pretty much.
Very crazy, very crazy.
We have buffalo, we have cow leather, and all of this is produced in India. Even though when we are talking about cow in the Indian sentiment, which is we consider it as God, right? Cows, but at the end of the day, when people are still producing cow leather, if you just go to any tannery in Kanpur and ask for cow leather, they will just give it to you right there and there itself, pretty much. And the same thing about sheep leather and baby sheep leather, and fundamentally so on and so forth. So now here, when we are talking about alternatives, so we only have two alternatives in the market, which is PO and PVC, and then there's leather. So our, as mentioned previously, our product sits right in the middle of it, where it is not real leather, which is not made from skin fundamentally, and which is not also PO PVC. So right sits right in the middle of it.
Okay, okay, okay. So, the last but not the least, so bioleather, as mentioned earlier earlier by you, that bioleather is not going to restrict themselves to tomatoes. There are going to be a lot of things coming up with bioleather.
Yeah.
So, from today, you started in 2019, and today now it is 2016. So, from today to upcoming 5 to 6 years, where do you see bioleather at, for sustainable materials, or where do you project bioleather in the upcoming years?
In the 5 to 10 years moving ahead, we see BioLeather quite diverse in terms of offerings. We see BioLeather making vertically integrated choices in terms of adding more product lines and moving into products while also expanding into international markets.
Very nice. So, of course, getting into international market, it's not going to be easy, and it's never
Mhm.
easy. So, any strategy, any plan for international market, or do you already have any? If you have scratched out any plan for that.
No, we are pretty much gonna fail fundamentally and move into it. It is just the
So once you
cycle of
fail, you
failing
get
and
back
learning.
very strong. That's for sure.
Yeah,
Yes, yes,
yeah.
definitely. Of course, if you're at RCF, even we believe that once we fail, because we failed a lot of times. We even failed, even if you will be, you'll be at surprise that we failed for our logo as well. When we started at initial, we were not able to make a logo. We were not able to make a decide over what work we are doing and if that suits up. logo, if that matches our logo or whatever. But when talking about RCF logo, our logo describes a perfect blend of, environment sustainability. If you look
Mm-hmm.
closer to that logo, it
Mm-hmm.
explains, all the life cycle of humans, how it is done. Everything is covered under that logo. And specifically, it was so great. And last but not the least, if not Bioleather, where would be the last venture, Pratesh Mistry, and what would we be doing today?
I have no idea, absolutely. If not Bioleather, I didn't have a plan B. It was just plan A that worked out pretty much.
Very, very, very well said. Of course, definitely. So, if not plan A, not B, there was no plans for Pritesh, but it plan B, which is bio leather, which worked out very well in your favors. All the stars, everything worked together, and you have a very big fraternity in aspect of environment, and you're doing something very great. Lastly, what message you would like to give to the, young minds, youngsters sitting across and watching
I think,
you,
yeah, go ahead.
yeah, watching you, a young mind like you. So what message would you like to give them? Because, today, in today's world, as mentioned, we have a lot of diversity in a lot of works. There's so much uniqueness, there's so much, innovativeness, and like every single day some or the other people are getting up with some unique idea, and they never fail to surprise us. India is not, not disappointing at all, and never disappoints in, surprising you with something very unique and innovative. And so, what what message would you like to give, or maybe some advice in about people can, how they can improve their innovative and maybe start their entrepreneurship journey, or if you want to speak about how an entrepreneur should be, or something on that lines.
I think so. I will sum it up in a very small thing. Just stay curious and don't be afraid to fail. That's it.
Definitely. Definitely. Yes. Thank you so much, Pratesh. It was so great talking to you, and it's always fun talking to such young minds and, inspiring the world.
Mhm.
I ensure I hope you keep inspiring the world like this, and I hope Bioleather is reaching to other heights today and tomorrow, every day, and whenever we look up to you, we should remember. I'm sure Voices of Richa Cares will always remember this environmentalist who's sitting right here, who was a backbencher earlier, but now a great entrepreneur. Thank you so much.